to Learning English with Common Ground International. I'm Misty Davidson. I'm an ESL teacher here, and I'm glad you decided to join us today. Our lesson today is on phrasal verbs in English, verbs with two or more words. You see on the picture, giveaway. We'll learn a lot more about that today, so let's begin. Our objective: by the end of this lesson, you will recognize many common phrasal verbs, and you'll know how to use them. And let me add one more thing. English has many phrasal verbs. We cannot talk about all of them here. If we did, this would be a very long video. You wouldn't want to sit through anything that long. So we're only going to talk about a few, but it will help you recognize phrasal verbs when you see them and recognize the types of them. So let's begin. What is a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is a verb that consists of two or more words, and you'll see some examples. The first word is always a verb. The second and third words may be prepositions or adverbs. Let's look at some examples. To check in. Now, to is just an infinitive. Check is a verb. In is a preposition. It means to register for a flight for the airport. You know, when you're going someplace, you check in 24 hours before. Or to find out how somebody is doing. You call somebody on the phone. Hi, I'm just checking in. I knew you were sick. I'm checking in to see how you're feeling. To come up with. Come is a verb. Up is an adjective. With is a preposition. It means to develop an idea or a plan. I came up with an idea about how to save a lot of money on groceries. To call off means to cancel. I had to call off my party because nobody could come. There are two kinds of phrasal verbs. One kind is separable. You can separate the parts of the verb, the first and the second word, and it still makes sense, and you'll see examples of that. The second is inseparable. The phrasal verb, the verb, and the other words are married. They are together. You can't separate them. If you do, it does not make sense. Let's look at some separable phrasal verbs. If a phrasal verb is separable, it always takes a direct object. We can keep the entire phrasal verb together, or we can separate the two parts. Both are correct. Let's look at some examples. To call off or to cancel. Let's look at this in a sentence. Everyone is sick, so we need to call off the meeting. We've kept call and off together. Meeting is the direct object. Call off what? Call off the meeting. Now let's look at them. Look at it separated. Everyone is sick, so we need to call the meeting off. Meeting is still the direct object, but we put the direct object in between call and off, in between the two parts of the phrasal verb. To pick up, that means to go somewhere and fetch someone. I have to pick up my son from school. That means I take my car, I go to school, I meet my son, he gets in the car, and we drive home. Or I need to pick my son up from school. My son is a direct object. When we separate the verbs, it's in between pick and up. Let's look at some other phrasal verbs, separable phrasal verbs. To ask out, that means to invite somebody to go on a date with you. To find out, to discover something. To make up, to invent a story or a lie. I was late to work and I made up a story about there being a lot of traffic because I didn't want to tell the boss I overslept. To talk over, to discuss. Let's talk over our problem. To throw away, to put something in the trash. I have to throw away this dirty paper towel. To run into, to meet somebody by chance. I ran into my old kindergarten teacher. That was from a very long time ago. Okay, let's talk about inseparable phrasal verbs. Inseparable phrasal verbs must remain together. Some inseparable phrasal verbs take a direct object, but many do not. If a phrasal verb cannot take a direct object, it is always inseparable. If it can, it may or may not be inseparable. So unfortunately, there is no trick. I wish I could say, well, here's the trick to knowing whether it's separable or inseparable. You just have to learn them. And as you get more familiar with English, it will become automatic. Here are some examples of inseparable phrasal verbs. To go over means to review. The teacher went over the chapter to prepare us for the test. That means the teacher reviewed the chapter. We can't say went the chapter over. And in this case, the sentence does have a direct object. Went over what? The chapter. To chip in means to help or contribute to something. Everyone needs to chip in so we can clean this mess up. It means everybody needs to help. There is no direct object. Chip in what? Nothing. Everybody just needs to help. Here are some other inseparable phrasal verbs. These are ones that can take a direct object. To call on. When the teacher asks you to recite in class, I raised my hand and the teacher called on me. Or to visit someone. I called on my grandmother because I knew that she couldn't get out. To get over means to recover from an illness or a disappointment. I had a cold, but I got over it. I felt very sad when I lost my job, but I got over it. To look into means investigate. The police will look into the robbery. To run into, to meet someone by chance. To wait on, to serve. To catch up with, to keep informed about a person or a topic. My friends and I meet for lunch and we catch up on what's going on in our lives. Some more inseparable. These inseparable verbs cannot take a direct object. To break down, stop functioning. My washer broke down. To come in, to enter. I came into the building. To eat out, to eat in a restaurant. To grow up, to get older as a child becomes an adult. My son grew up. To keep on means to continue. To show up means to arrive. We're going to look at some families of phrasal verbs, and again, there are many, many phrasal verbs. Even many, many in a family. We can't look at all of them. We'll look at some. English has many phrasal verbs. We can't go over all of them, but we're going to talk about 3 common families of phrasal verbs. The first is the give family. To give away is separable. It means to give something to someone for free or to reveal a secret. We can say, I gave my dog away, or I gave away my dog. Don't give away my secret. I told you something secret. Don't tell anybody, or don't give my secret away. To give back is separable. It means to return something. I gave back the money I borrowed. I gave the money back that I borrowed. To give in is inseparable. It means to stop arguing. You'll get cards with all these, flashcards with all these, so don't worry about writing down every one of them. It means to stop arguing about something, even though you still think you're right, but you're tired of arguing, or you know you're not getting anywhere. She gave in and let her husband buy a TV. She didn't want one, but she stopped arguing. To give out is separable. To give things away to many people for free. Costco gives out food samples on the weekends. Costco gives food samples out. Okay, the next family we're going to talk about is the go family. To go on is inseparable. It means to happen. What's going on at work? What's happening at work? To go with is inseparable, to match or work well together. Stripes and plaid just don't go with each other. They look funny together. To go out is inseparable. To stop functioning or to go to a social activity. My washing machine went out last week. It died. I enjoy going out with my friends over the weekend. The put family. To put away is separable. To return something to where it belongs. Please put the dishes away. Or please put away the dishes. To put off is separable. To delay something, it has two meanings or a completely different meaning. To have a bad impression of something. I am putting off paying my bills. I really don't want to pay my bills, so I'm delaying it. When he yelled at my sister, it put me off. I had a bad impression of him when he yelled at his sister. To put up with is inseparable. It means to tolerate something unpleasant. I can't put up with my nephew's bad behavior. Hey, let's do some practice. You will see sentences with separable phrasal verbs. Your job is to rewrite or resay the sentence in the other way that it can be done correctly. For example, if the verbs are separated, the words are separated, put them together. If they're together, separate them. If a telemarketer calls, hang up the phone. How else can we say that? If you said, hang the phone up, you're right. If a telemarketer calls, hang the phone up. Both are correct. Number 2, please read your notes over before the test. Okay, this time they were separated. Please read over your notes before the test. Number 3, I always try on shoes before I buy them. I always try shoes on before I buy them. Number 4, pick the earrings out that you want, and I'll buy them for you. I think I gave you the answer. Pick out the earrings you want, and I'll buy them for you. Number 5, please turn the volume down. The TV is too loud. I say this to my husband all the time. Please turn down the volume. The TV is too loud. Now fill in the blank with the correct phrasal verb. We need to blank this blank. Looks like I've separated this. Discuss, something that means discuss before we can make a decision. If you have, we need to talk this over. You're correct. We need to talk this over before we can make a decision. Number 2, my daughter outgrew her clothes, so we blank them blank. We gave them to someone for free. We gave them away. Number 3, please help her contribute so we can buy the bride a nice gift. Please chip in other words, give money so we can buy the bride a nice gift. A bride is a woman who's about to get married. Number 4, can you tolerate something unpleasant? Can you blank a boring movie? Can you put up with a boring movie? I have a hard time putting up with boring movies. Number 5, I got tired of arguing, so I stopped arguing even though I was sure I was right. So I gave in. Number 6, I want to blank Anna blank, but I'm so nervous. We want to invite on a date. Ask Anna out. I want to ask Anna out, but I'm so nervous. Number 7, we need to blank cancel our vacation. We are all sick. We need to call off our vacation. We are all sick. Number 8, I was so surprised. I, blank, means met somebody by chance, Bob, at the mall, and he lives miles from here. You said I ran into. You're right, I was so surprised I ran into Bob at the mall, and he lives miles from here. Number 9, please blank me my coat. Please blank me my coat, blank, to return something. Please give me back my coat. Give me back my coat. Give the first blank. Give me my coat back. Number 10. I'm so sorry. I blank put something in the trash. Your important papers. I threw away. I'm so sorry. I threw away your important papers. Okay, let's review. I hope you've learned a lot. To review, phrasal verbs are verbs with 2 or more parts. The first word is always a verb. The second or third words are prepositions or adverbs. Phrasal verbs may be separable or inseparable. You can separate the parts of separable phrasal verbs. Separable phrasal verbs always take a direct object. Inseparable phrasal verbs must be kept together. Some inseparable phrasal verbs can take a direct object. Some cannot. And there you have it. Our presentation, our lesson on phrasal verbs in English. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you recognize phrasal verbs when you see them and feel comfortable using them in any way, separable or not. I'm Misty Davidson from Common Ground International. This is Learning English. I'm glad that you decided to join us today. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you and goodbye.